What episodes? Nordic, I'm sorry, I don't remember what episode. I should have looked at this earlier. Okay, 61. This is episode 61.
Okay,
All right, you ready?
ready.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 61 of the NordCast. I am not your host, Nordic97. I am Carter, here joined with, the most amazing co-host, Jack Polko. Jack, you just came back from a little vacation. How you doing?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty solid. I could be better, could be worse, but hey, that's life sometimes. So
Right.
Nordic cannot be with us today. He is out camping, I believe. So he will not be joining us today. So we're gonna have a little bit more of a chill episode. Not gonna go through too much news here. There's still been some things that have happened. But we got a little tier list for you guys today. This is our free agency tier list. Not every player that is signed a contract is going to be on here because that would take us hours to do. But we got most of the main ones that have signed. So we're going to kind of go through this, see what we think, get Jack's opinion, get my opinion. And and we're going to go right through this. So
All right.
starting it off, we got the man who is fresh off of winning a Stanley Cup, Sam Reinhart. Now, Reinhart in the previous season put up 57, almost hit 60 goals with 37 assists for 94 points. In the playoffs, he kind of did slow down a little bit with 24 games played, 10 goals, 6 assists for 16 points, but he did have the Stanley Cup game-winning goal for the Florida Panthers. Now, he signed for 8 years, $8.625 million to remain a Florida Panther. Jack, what are your thoughts on this signing of Sam Reinhart to the Florida Panthers?
Yeah, I think the 8 years is probably a little much, just considering his age, and I'm not a genius when I say players tend to slow down with age. But yeah, I like that. He's kind of like one of the core pieces to this team. Him, Barkov, and Chuck, that was like their big three this year, I'd say. Obviously Stolar's in net. You got him too. But yeah, fresh off a Stanley Cup. I like the pricing of this. Just not the 8 years. I feel like that may be a little much. But yeah, almost 60 goals this year. He was great for them. So
For
I would
sure.
I would say decent.
Decent contract.
I'd say decent.
So he's 28 right now. So by the end of this contract, he'll be about 36. So he'll kind of be nearing the end of his career when this contract is over. I think 8 million is actually a good price point for him. I think salary cap's going to go up, players are going to get more expensive, and even if he only puts up like 40 goals next season, I think paying 8 million for a 40 goal scorer is not bad, especially one that he plays with that edge, he plays with that bite, and his shot is probably one of like the better ones in the National Hockey League. Um, I would put my vote in for good contract because I think he did kind of take a little bit of a hometown discount to remain a Panther. Because there were guys that were saying, "Oh, he could get 9, he could get 9.5." There were guys who were saying he could get 10 million from a team that could use a pure goal scorer like Sam Reinhart. So I think that this is a good contract. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a steal, but I do think that this is a very, very good contract for the Florida Panthers and Sam Reinhart. So what do you think? Throw it in good?
I'd say good. Yeah.
Good? All right. So Sam Reinhart will be the first player we put in the tier list. And I think good contract is a great spot to keep him. We won't be able to get Nordic's opinion, although if you watch his YouTube videos, he's probably gone over it. But I have no idea where he would have put it. Next up, we have Tyler Bertuzzi going to Jack's Chicago Blackhawks. Whoa, Blackhawks. He signed a 4-year, $5.5 million deal with the Chicago Blackhawks. In the last season, he played 80 games, put up 21 goals, 22 assists for 43 points. Coming off, I think, what looks to be a very injured year last year where he only played 50 games between two teams, but still managed to put up 30 points. Jack, I'll kind of let you take the reins on this one, seeing as this is from your Chicago Blackhawks with this signing. What do you kind of think of this? He's 29 years old, so you only have him for 4 years, so you'll have him till he's 33, kind of coming off the end of, I guess you could say, his prime. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people who watch the NHL regularly know that the Blackhawks just could not score last year. Um, and eventually, you're gonna have to start bringing in guys like this to help, the young core. And this is a good piece to get some offensive help. I believe he's a good defender too. Just by the way, like he plays, he's very chippy. He can protect Bedard. I would probably guess he's going to be playing on the first line with him. Looking at the roster right now. But yeah, I'd say, I just because of the state the roster's in, I would say good contract. Just because like we need guys that can, score like at least 30 points in an NHL season. And there's not a lot of guys in the Hawks that you can say can do that right now. So I think Bertuzzi is a good signing for us.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it pretty well. I think that Tyler Bertuzzi is going to provide a little bit of that more scoring Corey Perry that Chicago was looking for at the start of last season because you needed a guy who can be out there who can kind of help protect your superstar in Connor Bedard. So getting a guy that can play up with him, that can play a little bit of that faster pace that Bedard likes to play, that can still put up pretty decent point totals. I mean, 40, if you're getting half a point per game, I mean, that's like what second, third line minutes there. But Chicago's kind of weak on that forward core a little bit. So they could kind of use him to play all around. I think adding a little bit of grit to that roster and someone to help protect Bedard is definitely something that you can't put a price tag on. You can't put a price tag on protecting your superstar player. So where do you want to put this one?
I would put him in good.
Put it in good.
Would you agree?
I would aim for decent, just kind of based on his point totals, but good because you'll help protect your star player in Connor Bedard. So I
Help him offensively. That's the big
yeah, I agree. I
thing.
agree. All right, coming up next we have Jake Gensel coming off a kind of a weird year for him. He goes to Pittsburgh, or he's in Pittsburgh. He ends up getting traded to Carolina right around the trade deadline. Goes on a little bit of a race for the cup with them there. Ends up playing really well in Carolina. Through 17 games, he had 25 points. With the Pittsburgh Penguins at the start of the season, through 50 games, he had 52 points. So no matter the team he was on, it looked like he was getting over a point per game. Then come playoff time, 11 games played, 4 goals, 5 assists for 9 points. So still, you're getting a point per game guy at a Jake Gensel very consistently. He's been like a star player since he's entered the league. Um, he's gotten to play with Sidney Crosby, won a cup his rookie year. There's not much else you can ask for from Jake Gensel. So he signed with the Tampa Bay Lightning, getting traded to them for a third round pick just to get his UFA rights, just so the Tampa Bay Lightning could kind of talk to him about what he's feeling and what he would be preferred for in a contract. So he signed a 7-year, $9 million deal. So he's 29 right now. By the end of this deal, he's going to be about the same age as Sam Reinhart at 36. So coming near close to the end of Jake Gensel's career. What are you thinking about this deal here, Jack?
Yeah, Tampa is a team that is still definitely a contender and will be. But it's just like their cap space. I don't understand how they can still do all this. Like, I mean, I feel like they were negatives just last year, and now they go and give a guy 9 million a year. It's just wild to me. But yeah, they probably will not be able to make any other moves, and I feel like I don't know. I don't know if they can compete in the East anymore. We'll see. I mean, obviously, I think they're still a playoff team, but this is a good move for them. Jake Ansel is obviously a very good hockey player. Um, but yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of overpay. Um, so I would lean toward decent on this.
So with that signing, the Tampa Bay Lightning have $5 million in cap space. Obviously, they had to make some moves that I feel like not a lot of the fans and certainly a lot of us were kind of confused about on what exactly are the Tampa Bay Lightning doing. Um, so they ended up trading away a guy who they gave up a lot of money for, but now shipped him. Um, oh my God, how am I blanking on his name?
What?
The fuck, who am I? I'm actually such an idiot. How am I forgetting this? This is horrible. Oh my God, I'm actually gonna hate myself once I look in Sergachev.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
who it
yeah.
is. So they had to make a tough decision and trade Mikhail Sergachev, who was making $8.5 million at the time. So he is now completely off the book. So they don't have to worry about paying him 8.5, but they also had to let go probably the bet. Like, I think no doubt he's going to go down as the best Tampa Bay Lightning of all time, unless somehow Nikita Kucherov is just going to keep performing at 130 points every single season, which he could realistically do. But Steven Stamkos, they had to let go. It feels like in order to make this Jake Gensel thing, um, because I don't think you saw what they were offering him 8 years, $3 million. That was a slap in the face to Steven Stamkos. They have 5 mil in cap space. They still got a few roster spots to try and fill out. Um, but they got a little bit of money to try and make some upgrades, make some trades, see what they can get done. Um, but yeah, I think that this is a decent contract for him. I think 9 mil is a nice fair price for Jake Gensel, a proven guy who will get you exactly what you're looking for. So I'd put him in decent. I think 9 mil is a fair price for Jake Gensel.
I would agree.
Next up on the list, we got Dmitry Kulikov. Now Kulikov has kind of bounced around the league a little bit as of late. He's only really had a couple 1 year stints. He was with Florida for the start of his career. He was there till about 2016. Then was with the Sabres for a year, then with the Jets for 3, the Devils for half a year, the Oilers for the back half, the Wild for a year, the Ducks for the first half, and the Penguins for the back half. And then he went back to the Florida Panthers to win a Stanley Cup. So he has kind of been on a journey, but he is back with the team that drafted him 14th overall in 2009. So he is 33 years old. He signed a 4 year, $1.5 million contract with the Florida Panthers. He had 20 points through 76 games last year and only 2 points through 24 games in the playoffs. You're getting a pretty good defenseman out of Dmitry Kulikov. There's not too much you can ask for. He's not an offensive defenseman by any means. He's a big body who's going to make you pay in front of the net and behind the net. Jack, what are you thinking on this move here with Dmitry Kulikov coming back to the Florida Panthers for 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, you liked it. He's a shutdown guy. Not going to put up the offensive numbers, but that's what you need on a Stanley Cup contender. You need the shutdown guys who can take down the first line of your opposing team, and that's what you can do. And that's what we saw in the playoffs. Yeah, like you said, just 2 points, but that really doesn't matter as long as you're keeping the puck out of the net, and that's what he did. So
Yeah, I agree with that. So, in my opinion, I think getting a shutdown defenseman, especially an NHL proven defenseman, for 1 million is a good contract. You're getting
I
him
would
for 4 years, which it's good because I think he'll be 37, and I feel like shutdown defensemen kind of last in the NHL a lot
say age
longer.
for sure. Yeah,
They age really nicely. So I would honestly be comfortable putting this in a good contract because getting a good shutdown defenseman, that's pretty solid for just a little over 1 million there. So I'm comfortable putting this in good contract. What are you thinking?
I would agree with good.
Good? All right. So both Florida deals so far are looking like good contracts. So that is a positive for the Florida Panthers there. Moving on, Brett Pesce is done in Carolina. Spent the pretty much his entire career he has been with them. He turns 29 coming near or he turns 30, sorry, by the end of this year. He's 29 right now. He's a right shot defenseman. He only had 13 points through 70 games last year. So still, he's a pretty decent defenseman. He had 1 point through uh, two playoff games. So he really only played two play. Damn, that's was he injured? I feel like he must have been injured, right?
So yeah,
Yeah. So he was injured kind of through playoff time, which does kind of suck and sting for the Carolina Hurricanes. But he is no longer with Carolina. He leaves the team that helped get him up, breed him. And he signs a 6-year, $5.5 million deal with the New Jersey Devils. What are you thinking? I think the Devils definitely needed help on that back end. So even if it feels like a little bit of an overpay, they needed help on that defensive side because you saw how bad it was this year. It doesn't also help that they didn't have a goalie last year, which they have now. So being able to help protect the house, I think that's a great move for the New Jersey Devils. So my vote's going to be putting this at decent, just because I feel like 5.5 is a
yeah,
little
I would go
high.
decent too.
Yeah, I think 5.5 is a
It
little
is,
high, but I don't know.
yeah, it's definitely a little high, but yeah, you hit it right on the head. That's basically what the team needs, and they're a young team that will definitely be a contender for the next couple of years. And yeah, it's a good GM when you're fitting the team's needs in the off season, and that's what they're doing. So
So both Carolina guys that got shipped off are put in decent contracts. So might be a good thing that Carolina didn't keep them, but at the same time, I think it still stings to lose some guys like that. Next up on the list, we got Chris Tanev. He got shipped at the deadline this year. Was with Vancouver for pretty much the entirety of his career. Then he got shipped to Calgary in 2020 to 2021 season, and then he ended this year with the Dallas Stars, a nice trade deadline acquisition. He had 5 points through 19 games, and come playoff time, he had two points through 19 games in the playoffs. So he played pretty much the exact same in regular season, games wise, I should say. But as far as playoff wise, his point total kind of slowed down, put up 8 less points with the same amount of games, which it's not. Oh, wait, never mind. Sorry. He only had 5 points, not 10. I don't know why I'm reading that wrong. 3 less points through 19 games. So it's not the greatest. But still he's not meant to be a point getter. That's not Chris Tanev. He is a big body who pretty much just like Kulikov will beat you behind the net. He'll beat you in front of the net. It does not matter. He is going to make you not want to crash the crease. We signed with Toronto 6 years, $4.5 million. What are you thinking on this one?
I think this is going to be our first not so good deal. It is just a little bit of an overpay, in my opinion. 6 years is kind of a lot too for a guy like him. But yeah, don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but I do think this is a little bit of an overpay.
Yeah, he is. Let's see. How old is he right now? So he's 34 years old.
Yeah,
He turns he turns 35 this year too.
yeah,
Um
that's
so you're going to be paying him till 41. Now, as we said with Kulikov, defensemen do age really well. Man, you're going to pay him till he's 41 years old.
yeah.
That is that is a shock to me. I'm taking a quick look at their defense pool there. They got some good defensemen. I think that Toronto kind of attacked this offseason really nicely. But I do think that 4.5 million until they're 41 years old is going to look good for the first little bit for Chris Tanev because he's still a great defenseman. I think everybody wants a guy like Christopher Tanev on their team. But I think by the end of this, we're gonna look and say might be a little bit of an overpay. So I'm comfortable putting this in not so good deal. Or as Nordic typed it out, no so good deal. But
No, so good.
no so good. Coming up next, we got Yakov Trenin, who signed a 4-year, $3.5 million contract with the Minnesota Wild. In the last year, he started it off with the Nashville Predators, putting up 38 points through 60 games, or sorry, 14 points through 60 games. Wow, I am not reading the point totals right.
I was gonna say, dang.
Yeah, 14 points through 60 games with 10 goals. Then he got shipped to the Colorado Avalanche, where he put up 3 points through 16 games. And come playoff time, he had a goal in 10 games played for 1 point. No assists there. Um, but I don't think that's really Jakub Trennin's game. He's more of that big body who will make hits, make plays. He's That's just who he is. I don't think a lot of these guys that got signed aren't pure like goal scorers or snipers or anything like that. But I think Jakub Trenin, 3.5 million for him. You get him going. You get a little bit of help for Kaprizov and Boldy and everything like that. Just get someone to protect your stars. I don't think. Again, I said this with Bertuzzi. You can't put a price tag on getting guys to protect your stars.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, I think the Wild is definitely a good fit for him. They probably need more guys like that. I hate the Wild, so I'm sure this guy will be a pest to the Hawks. But I would say I'll put him in a decent or good contract. I'm kind of in the middle.
I was gonna go with decent contract for Jakub
Okay,
Trenin.
that works.
Good with decent. I think it's a good deal.
Yeah,
I think it's a decent contract. I think it's the money's right. I think the years are right because from what it's looking like, he's only 27 years old. So he's going to be 31 by the end of this deal and 3 million. Like, even though you're not getting a ton of points out of him, you're getting a grinder, you're getting an enforcer, someone who's not going to get pushed around. And that's who he is. So I think this is a good deal for him. Next up on the list was a guy who it almost looked like didn't play too well in the playoffs and kind of had somewhat of a down year this year. Did not look like he did last year. Did not start the year the way he finished it last year. We got Brandon Montour. So he is leaving the Florida Panthers after being with them for 3.5 seasons. In the last year, he had 66 games with 33 points, with 8 goals. In the playoffs, he had 24 games played. He had 11 points. Now, going back to the season prior, he was a 73-point guy through 80 games. And come playoff time, he had 21 games played. He had 13 points. And he was kind of that star defenseman that they needed. They lost Mackenzie. They traded away Kenzie Weegar to get Matthew Tkachuk, and in comes, and we're like, oh, they don't have a star defenseman this year. And boom, Brandon Montour emerges, and he played really well in that role. And then this season, he kind of had a little bit a down year. Still played pretty decent kind of throughout the playoffs, but at times he didn't look too great. Um, but yeah, he ends up signing with the Seattle Kraken, 7 years, $7.14 million. Jack, what are you thinking about this deal if you're the Seattle Kraken?
yeah, I think I would go not so good deal. The Kraken, I don't know, they're just a team that does not have a star player, and I think they're kind of looking at mid the next couple years. Not like a bottom five team, but not really a playoff contender. Maybe flirting with the wild card a little bit. But yeah, I'm just not sure the direction the Kraken are trying to go. Um, but yeah, I would go not so good. I do think it's a little long of a contract and a little bit of an overpay. So
Yeah, I think so. By the end of his contract, he will be 37. So it almost looks like a lot of these contracts, all these guys are going to be almost done them by the time they're 37 or above. So we're getting a lot of guys who are getting a lot of term and a lot of money for nearing the end of their contracts here. I think that this Brandon Montour deal, wow, I am not speaking right. This Brandon Montour deal, it looks pretty good, honestly, in my opinion. I kind of like this deal. I'd be willing to put this in decent because if you're able to get him back to his 2022-23 self, I think you're looking at a steal of a contract. If you're getting a defenseman who's almost putting up a point per game, I think that's worth all the money you can shell out. But if you're looking at it from this season, It's not too great. The only thing I will say is he does eat up a lot of minutes and he is a good defenseman. I will give him that. He's a great number one pair defensive guy, and I think that he will be great in Seattle. So I'm willing to put this in decent. I kind of like this deal for the Seattle Kraken, who don't really have um, a star defenseman. They got some defensemen that I'm looking at right here that are just, they're kind of off and on. They're iffy. But I think that when Brandon Montour comes in, I think that he'll be a great pairing with Vince Dunn. I think that that's a great first pairing defenseman if you're the Seattle Kraken. So I'm willing to put this one in decent. Um, but I think after the next two seasons, we could look at this and be like, hey, this is a no so good deal or a horrible overpay. But I'm willing to put this in decent.
Okay.
All right, coming up next, another Carolina boy who is leaving the Carolina Hurricanes, and he is going to Jack's favorite team, the Chicago Blackhawks. He signs a 3-year, $5.4 million deal with the Chicago Blackhawks, who he was originally drafted by and won a cup with them in the 2014-2015 season. He's coming off a season where 76 games played for 53 points. Come playoff time through 11 games, he had 6 points, so not too bad of a guy here. Jack, again, I'm going to let you take the reins on this one because it is your team. He is 29 years old. So by the end of this contract,
Yeah.
we are looking at him
Obviously
being.
Teravainen. Sorry, my computer's glitching.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
It keeps freezing. Anyways, yeah, obviously Teravainen. His rookie year was with the Hawks, and he did win the cup with us, which was a very, very fun year. My favorite cup out of all 3 years that we won it. But yeah, I think it is good value. 3 years is probably a good length for this. I believe he's 29, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 29 years old. I think this is going to be a good signing. Like I mentioned with the Bertuzzi, we just need offensive help, and it's time to start getting Bedard some experience with actual NHL guys. And I think this is another good signing. Obviously, him, Bertuzzi, and then Taylor Hall. I think is a big one that's coming back after his season-ending injury. But yeah, I'd say I'd put this in good.
I kind of like that deal. I think, you know, he's 5 million. You're getting, about a six in a full season. You're probably getting this guy for almost 60 points. I think 5 million for 60 points is a very, very solid contract for him. He's coming back home. I think he's. What do you think he's going to slide up first line with Connor Bedard, or where would you put him?
I think probably first or second.
That seems about right for him. So yeah, I think getting that, I'm comfortable putting that in a good contract. I think 5 mil for him is very fair. So he's the first former Carolina guy to move up into the good contracts there. Um, yeah, good signing for the Chicago Blackhawks. I feel like you got to be pretty excited about that. Next up,
Yes,
yeah. Next up, we got
very excited about that.
nice. Next up, we got Jordan Martinook. He is the first one to stay in Carolina. Coming off last season through 82 games, he put up 32 points with 14 goals. Coming down playoff time through 11 games played, he had 4 points. Left shot winger. He is he's kind of key for Carolina, I will say that. Um, Coming down to what he's making with Carolina, he re-signs 3 years, 3,050,000 AAV. What do you think about this? I think that this is a guy who you kind of want to keep your culture because he's been there pretty much for the longest time. He's been there since the 2018-2019 season. Um, I don't know. What are you thinking on this one? This one's a little on the nose for me here.
Yeah, well, he's a funny guy. I'll give you that. Very funny comedian. But yeah, he's been definitely, like you said, a key to Carolina. Just playing that third and fourth line, getting those greasy goals. Um, Yeah, I'm kind of torn on this. I really don't know. What were his point totals last year?
Last year, he had 32 points through 82 games with 14 goals.
Okay, I think I would probably go decent here.
Yeah.
Maybe not so good.
What was he? I'm gonna take a quick look at what he was making last year. Thankfully, cap friendly is not down yet. Um, but I am scared for when it is.
Yeah.
So his last contract, he was making 1.8 million. That was his last deal. So he gets a pretty sizable jump. Um, it almost doubles. It almost doubles. Whoa. I would put this in decent or no so good. Which one you thinking? Which one you thinking,
I think
Jack?
we need a few more not so good,
Not so
but
good?
not
Okay.
so good.
We'll keep him there. So, our last one for right now before our meeting ends quick. Tyler Toffoli. He is going to the San Jose Sharks. The Sharks are building something kind of nice over there. I will say they are giving Macklin Celebrini, they are giving Will Smith, they are giving Graf a lot of pieces to work with here. Like this is getting to be an ideal situation. Greer has done a great job of building this team. I'm shocked because this team at the start of the year, we were kind of like, okay, they're not going to be bottom. Or sorry, for this upcoming season, we were probably all thinking like, okay, they probably won't be bottom because they have the first overall pick in Macklin Celebrini, but I don't think they'll be very good. Then you look at it, wait, they got Will Smith coming in. Oh, they got Connor Graff coming in. Macklin Celebrini's coming in. Oh, they're making trades. Barkley Goudreau's there. Now they signed Tyler Toffoli. They move up in the draft to take Sam Dickinson. Like this is like the Sharks are building something very special over there, and I am intrigued to see how they do this next season. But we're not here to talk about the San Jose Sharks. We're here to talk about their signing in Tyler Toffoli. So Tyler Toffoli finished the year with the New Jersey Devils. He's kind of bounced around a lot since his long stint with the LA Kings. He was with the Devils for the start of the year, put up 26 goals for 44 points through 61 games, then got traded to my Winnipeg Jets, where he put up in 18 games played. He put up 11 points with 7 goals. And then come playoff time, 5 games played, he only had 2 goals. What are you thinking about this deal if you're the San Jose Sharks or just as a fan in general?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a similar situation to the Blackhawks right now. Kind of eerily similar actually, but it's kind of like I would say he's probably better offensively than Bertuzzi and Tavo, but I would put it in good. It's just like the Blackhawks, they need guys that can score, and he'll definitely help out that young core over there. He's just a goal scorer, plain and simply, and he has been that for like the past decade. So I do like this move for the Sharks. They need guys like that. So
I agree. I think you hit this nail on the coffin. I think 6 million for Tyler Toffoli is a great contract. I love this deal for them, especially for the San Jose Sharks. You're getting a guy who can also help mentor, especially Will Smith, who's got probably one of the nicest shots I've seen in a long time. So getting a pure goal scorer to help your future pure goal scorer um, is key in my book. He's been pretty much a consistent 40 to 50 point. He kind of ranges in that 35 to 45 point range. Um, so I like this deal for the San Jose Sharks. I will put this in good. I think that other than Sam Reinhart, this is probably the best contract here. Um, but yeah, I really like that deal. So we're gonna take a quick pause here because our meeting's about to end. But we will be right back. All right, welcome back. We're gonna start this off by going off with the team that was arguably the most busy during this free agency, the Nashville Predators with 2 signings. We'll start it off with Jonathan Marchessault, who came off last season or 2 seasons ago winning a Conn Smythe. Now, usually when a guy wins a trophy, they aren't shipped off 2 years later. Um, but I guess Marcia Show is one, and the other one is Linus Ulmark. But that's besides the point. That's neither here nor there. He signs a 5 year, $5.5 million deal with the Nashville Predators. Last season, he put up 69 points with 42 goals through 82 games played. He had through playoffs, through 7 games played, he had 4 points. Now, if you go back to last season, his Conn Smythe playoff run, through 22 games played, he had 25 points with 13 goals. What are you thinking about this signing if you're the Nashville Predators here?
Yeah, I mean they were a team that was kind of surprising to me. I don't think I had them making the playoffs. But yeah, they have just really improved by Marchessault and Stamkos. Those are two huge top six guys that you're getting that are arguably in their prime right now. I'd say Stamkos a little past his prime, but he still puts up great numbers. And I think Nashville's such a great fit for both of these guys. And I think we're absolutely looking at maybe a Central Division winner next year. Um, but yeah, I like both these signings. I'd say I put them both in good.
Both in good. Yeah, so going to Steven Stamkos, so he sadly had to leave Tampa because they wanted to pay him $3 million, which if you're a Steven Stamkos, I don't think you're signing that.
Yeah.
As much as you want to stay in Tampa, like would you not take an extra $5 million to go play for a team that you know is also going to be competitive next year? Especially with the addition of Jonathan Marchessault, who the two of them actually reunite because they did play together. So 4 years, 8 mil for Stamkos, 5 years, 5.5 for Jonathan Marchessault. I think Marchessault, I think, is a good contract. I think 5.5 is nice for him. Like that is perfect for a guy like Jonathan Marchessault. Steven Stamkos, who I know you said is past looks past his prime. I don't think this guy has ever left it yet. He's still over a point per game guy. Like
Yeah.
last season through
Yeah.
79 games, he put up 81 points through 40 with 40 goals. Like, and this guy is like he's still had oh my god, I can't even speak right now because it's crazy to me that he has been this dominant for this long in their two Stanley Cup seasons where he was injured. Like we still forget that this guy was injured, had a chance to maybe never play hockey again, and he's back. The year after all those injuries, 106 points. The year after that, 84. Then last year, 81. Like this is you are getting almost a point per game guy, and getting him for 8 million is very good. So I think both. I agree with you. I think both of these are good contracts for the Nashville Predators. They are building something special over there. We were talking about San Jose building something special. I think we got to start. I think Nashville is going to be a team to start looking at. I think Barry Trotz has done an unreal job at keeping Nashville competitive. I think that they will be a very competitive team next year. Now, coming down to it, the next signing that we got, Oliver Ekman Larson, who was bought out by the Vancouver Canucks at the start of this season, ends up betting on himself, signs with the Florida Panthers on a 1 year kind of prove it deal. And he did. Through 80 games, he put up 32 points with 9 goals. Come playoff time, he was arguably their best defenseman. He was running that power play when Montour was kind of in his slump. In the playoffs, he had through 24 games played, he had 6 points with 2 goals. I think you get what you get with Oliver Ekman Larson. I think he signed 4 years, $3.5 million with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are really trying to bolster that back end because I think everyone has critiqued that back end as being this might be one of the worst in the National Hockey League. Well, obviously not one of the worst because they still have star players, but you get my point. For what they have on that forward core, that defensive core was not good. And I think Oliver Ekman Larson is going to fit right into that roster. I think he's going to be good. He proved himself last year. He proved he can still play. I really like this signing. He's going to be 36 by the time this deal's done. Jack, what are you thinking about that $3.5 million price tag for Oliver Ekman Larson?
I think this is gonna be the first great deal. that we have, in my opinion. I think, yeah, you really said it. Just fits all the team's needs, and yeah, this is huge for the Leafs, and I think this is a very, very good price.
You know what? I agree with that. This might be the first great signing. I don't know. Here's the thing. It says steal underneath, but I don't think this is like a steal of a contract. I think that this is just a great contract. I don't know why this is all popping up.
Yeah, right.
Um, I don't know if you were able to see that or not because I got a Zoom pop up. Oh fuck. This is fun. Okay, back to business. I don't know if any of that popped up. If it did, I'm sorry. But I don't think this is like a steal of a contract. I just think that this is a great deal. Um, I think you get a guy who can help quarterback that power play because he did it in Florida with their top pairing. I don't think you can take Morgan Riley off quarterbacking your top pairing there, but I think you get a number two guy that can quarterback that power play. He's the guy for the job. I think that Oliver Ekman Larson at $3 million is great. He's still young. He can skate. Um, he'll make you pay just like kind of every single defenseman that was on Florida. I really like this deal for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which sucks because I don't want the Leafs to do anything good.
Yeah.
Next up on the list is Nashville, who it was busy again. The Nashville Predators signed Brady Shea to a 7-year, $7 million contract. He is 30 years old, coming off a season. He's a left shot defenseman coming off a season where he put up 47 points through 80 games played with 13 goals. Come playoff time, he was nearly a point per game guy with 9 points through 11 games played. Jack, this is very nice for the Nashville Predators to give Roman Yossi a little bit of help on that back end. What are you thinking of this deal right now?
Yeah, I hit the Predators. But I do like the signing, like you said, Yossi, obviously probably top five, maybe even top three defenseman in the league, and pairing him up with a guy like this who can do great offensive things as well as defensive. That's huge for them. I would put this in good.
I agree. I'm looking at some of the defensemen that we have here. Um, and realistically, yeah, I think decent's good. I think that this is I think that it's a little bit of a worse contract than Brandon Montour because obviously Montour did have that big season, which Brady Shea really hasn't had, but that is okay because for for Brandon Montour, it was only 1 year. But I think he's got that potential. Brady Shea, I think I'm fine with putting in decent. I think it's a little bit worse than Brandon Montour, but not enough to drop him down to a no so good deal. Um,
Yes.
so that is another Carolina Hurricane that leaves them the only one they were able to keep, Brett Pesce. Or no, was it Pesce? Martinook. Martinook. He's the only one that they ended up keeping. Um,
Yeah.
so moving it down is a guy who got shipped at the trade deadline, signed in Boston, Elias Lindholm. Now, he with the Calgary Flames at the start of the year, he through 49 games played, he had 9 goals with 32 points. And then ended up going to the Vancouver Canucks at the trade deadline. Through 26 games played, he put up 12 points with 6 goals. Come playoff time, he really started to find his groove, I think, with the Vancouver Canucks here. 13 games played, he had 10 points with 5 goals. So he had a 5-5. He signs with the Boston Bruins a 7-year, $7.75 million contract. I think that this is a pretty good signing for him. He's almost slowed down a bit. He's 29 years old. He had 82 points in the 2021-22 season and then has slowly kind of dropped off to 64 points, then 44 points. So not too great if you're Elias Lindholm, but I think if he can find his rhythm with the Boston Bruins, I think this will be a great signing. But I think for this one, I would want to put it in decent. Jack, what are you thinking with Elias Lindholm here?
Yeah, I'd say decent too. I think it fits the Bruins timeline right now. But yeah, I'd say decent. I think he will be a good fit for Boston.
I agree. I think he's got that edge kind of deep inside of him, which pause. I think he's got that little bit of edge with him. So I think that he'll be he'll be a good fit for the Boston Bruins, especially if they end up making the playoffs come playoff time. He'll definitely be a player that I'll want to look out for and see how he does in playoff hockey because I think he did very well with the Vancouver Canucks this year. Next up, Igor Sharangovich. He re-signs with the Calgary Flames. Um, in the previous year, he had 59 points with 31 goals through 82 games played. He signs a 5-year, $5.75 million contract. Had a big breakout year, it looks like, after having 30 points in his previous season. He looked very good. I think he was one of the bright spots in this Calgary Flames team, and there were not very many. He's 26 years old, so still a young guy nearing his prime, and I think he's only going to get better. We will probably see him at a close to or about that 70-point total next year. My vote, I think I'd put this as a good contract. I think you're kind of playing the risk a little bit to where and he hit that next level. I think he hits that next level. This is going to be a great contract for the Calgary Flames, but if he doesn't hit it and he kind of stays at about that 50-point mark, I don't think you're kicking yourself too bad if you're the Calgary Flames. So Jack, what are you thinking on this one?
I would say good as well. I think you're definitely taking a risk, but I do think it's a good risk. I think he will definitely improve. Yeah, Calgary just needs young guys like that that can produce, and I think they're taking a good risk, good investment in signing him to a new deal. I didn't think he would re-sign there, but I'm kind of surprised. So.
I agree. I didn't really think he'd re-sign either, but you kind of have a year like that. I think you gotta be like, wow, I played really good here. Like maybe this is a spot that I could see myself. So I think good contract for Sharon Govich, especially if he hits that next level, we could be talking about this being a great deal for the Calgary Flames. But I think a good contract for right now, just looking at it kind of face value, um, is pretty good too. Moving on to our next player is a guy who is reuniting with his old buddy, Johnny Gaudreau. Sean Monahan has signed with the Columbus Blue Jackets on a 5-year, $5.5 million contract. Started the season off with the Montreal Canadiens. Through 49 games played, he had 13 goals, 22 assists for 35 points. And then he got traded to the Winnipeg Jets at the trade deadline, where through 34 games, he put up 13 goals, 11 assists for 24 points. Come playoff time, through 5 games, he only put up 1 assist. So not too great in the playoffs. That was only his fifth time in the playoffs. He's 29 years old, actually born on the same day as me. I did not know that, so that is good. Maybe I'll
There
have
you
to
go.
put that in great deal. So that's good. Um, I will say though, he did play 83 games last season. Because of the trade, it allowed him to play one more game than normal. So that's a pretty cool little stat there.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah. So what are you thinking about this one? If you're kind of the Columbus Blue Jackets or just a fan, kind of looking through it.
Yeah, I put it in decent. Maybe a bit of an overpay. But yeah, Columbus is one of those teams that has to start kind of rising. I feel like they have the talent to, kind of be competitive for a wild card spot maybe. But yeah, it is a tough division that they're in. So yeah, I put it in decent. I think maybe you're looking at a little bit of competitiveness next year. So
I agree. I think the Sean Monahan contract is a pretty decent contract. I don't think it's amazing by any sense. Um, but I don't think that it is that bad of a deal for the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think you reignite them with Johnny Gaudreau, who they had a lot of success together in Calgary. So he no longer has only played for Canadian teams as he now goes south of the border. Next up on the list, we got Nikita Zadorov. Now, Zadorov was one of the most probably sought after trade deadline pieces. Um, just looking at it, he's not known for being He's not known for being a point getter by any means. He started the year with the Calgary Flames through 21 games played. He put up 6 points with 23 penalty minutes. Now going to when his time with the Vancouver Canucks, he had 54 games played, 14 points for 102 penalty minutes. He is just he's just a big body who's going to hurt you in any way he can. Come playoff time through 13 games played, he did put up 8 points. So he did really well in the playoffs for the Vancouver Canucks. Kind of really stepped up, but still was able to get 26 penalty minutes, where he pretty much got that maths out to a penalty a game, which that's crazy. Even to say that's ridiculous. So Jack, what are you thinking? He signs in Vancouver, or he signs in Boston, sorry. 6 years, $5 million. What are you thinking about this deal for Nikita Zadorov?
I would, I love Zadorov as a player, but I would put this in not so good deal. I do think it is kind of an overpay just for a player kind of his type. So yeah, I'd say no so good.
No, so good. I I kind of agree with that. I can definitely see that. I think that's where I'd probably end up putting it too. Um, just because I know that's his style of playing that kind of hockey, but at the same time, that is a lot of penalty minutes. That's a lot to give up,
Yeah, it is.
especially if you're paying him like number one, number two defenseman type money. Um, it's a lot. Um, but I do think he's gonna fit the style that Boston plays really, really well. So I like the deal. I like the fit. Not a huge fan of the money. So I will agree with no so good deal. Next up, Jake DeBrusk. Now he moves on from the Vancouver Canucks. And the Boston Bruins, surprisingly, the two guys that they added, both Vancouver guys, and the guy from Boston is now going to Vancouver. So Jake DeBrusk, he signs a 7-year, $5.5 million contract with the Vancouver Canucks. Last year, he was a half point per game guy through 80 games played. He put up 40 points with 19 goals. Come playoff time, he kind of showed out. 13 games played, 11 points with 5 goals. Not too shabby for Jake DeBrusk. The really only bright spot that came out of the Boston Bruins, 3 straight picks in that 2015 NHL entry draft. Um, what are you thinking about this contract here for the Vancouver Canucks? 7 years, 5.5 million.
Yeah, I would probably put it decent. I could see not so good. Yeah, 7 years is kind of a lot, and I know he's requested trades out of Boston before. He's just kind of an interesting player. I do think you need to see a little more consistency out of him, but yeah, I go decent.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think 5 million for him. He's a playoff performer. He seems to do almost really well in the playoffs every single year. Um, except when they made their deep run, but he was a little young then. But I think he's only 27 years old. He's kind of hitting his prime and everything like that. So I think I'd go with a decent contract there for Jake DeBrusk. Next up, the last guy that Carolina was able to keep, Jacob Slavin. He signs an 8-year, $6.4 million contract to remain a Carolina Hurricane. And with this deal, it looks like he will remain a Cane for life. He's 30 years old. By the end of this deal, he will be 38. Last year, through 81 games played, he put up 37 points with 6 goals. Come playoff time, through 11 games played, he was only able to put up 3 points, but is undoubtedly, I think, probably the best defenseman on the Carolina Hurricanes, I would say. So what do you think about this contract for the Carolina Hurricanes here?
Yeah, I like it. They had to keep somebody to kind of hold down the blue line for them, and he's been very good for years now. And so I'd say I'd put this in good. Like we said before a couple of times, defensive defensemen tend to age pretty well. So yeah, I do like this contract for Carolina.
I agree. I think 6 million for Jacob Slavin is really good. You get a nice puck moving defenseman, a guy who's going to pass the puck. He finds the open lanes really well. I really like how he plays and how he attacks the game. I'm willing to put this one in good contract. Where are you thinking for this one?
I would say good too.
Good contract. I like that. I like that. All right. Next up, Warren Fogle. Fresh off of his Stanley Cup run with the Edmonton Oilers, he goes to their rival, the LA Kings, on a 3-year, $3.5 million contract. He's 28 years old, where he put up 41 points through 82 games with 20 goals. Come playoff time, he was a little bit slower on that front, but still not too bad. Through 22 games played, he had 8 points with 3 goals. Left shot, left winger. What are you thinking about this deal here for the LA Kings?
Yeah, I do kind of like it. I think he could definitely be a third, fourth line guy, kind of like he was in Edmonton. And yeah, I think LA is definitely looking to contend. Hopefully they don't pull the Oilers in the first round this time. But yeah, I think this would probably be a decent contract for them.
Yeah, so I'm kind of looking at this and 40 points. I 40 points. He went up 13 from his previous year. He beat his career high by 7 this year. So a really good year for Warren Fogle, which I think he definitely needed if he wanted to get a pretty sizable contract, which does kind of suck for the Edmonton Oilers because I think they really would have liked to keep him. But I would honestly, I'm close to thinking that this could be a great deal because I think if he improves this year on a bad LA Kings team, I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities here. I think we're going to see him a lot. Um, I would be willing to put this in great deal, not steal, nowhere, not really as good as Oliver Ekman Larson, but I'd be close to putting it in great deal. But I think good contract, I think is the safe bet.
Yes.
All right, before we move on to the final two players, there's one thing I want to ask. I want to put Sam Reinhart in great deal because
Great.
I'm looking at the rest of these guys here, and I think that he has the right to go up to a great deal.
Yeah, you know what? I think so too.
I I'm willing to go Sam Reinhart in the great deal spot
Okay, yeah, that works.
because I looking at it, I think yeah, I don't think I got to explain it. We kind of went over it already. Um, just thinking about what he could have got versus what he actually got, he takes 1 million less. That allows you to get a decent defensive piece, right? So
Yes.
I think the hometown discount was key. But hey, there it is. Sam Reinhart moves up to the second player in the great deal spot. Coming down to our final two players, we're gonna started off with Chandler Stevenson, who signs a 7-year, $6.25 million contract with the Seattle Kraken. So the Kraken make another move here after already bringing in Brandon Montour. They ended up grabbing another guy in Chandler Stevenson. The last year, he put up 51 points with 16 goals through 75 games played. He's 30 years old, so by the end of this contract, again, he's going to be 37. As I've said already, a lot of guys in their 30s are getting some pretty sizable contracts here. Six and a quarter million for a 51 point guy. Jack, what are you thinking for Chandler Stevenson here?
Honestly, I'm thinking no so good.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Let's. I want to hear your thoughts. Elaborate on this one.
Yeah, just like I said about the Kraken before, there's just no real direction, no real star player. And they just continue to kind of sign guys like this. I'm not sure I really understand it. He is getting older. Stevenson is. So yeah, I'm just not sure what they're doing. They're just kind of handing out money to these role player guys, and it's just every free agency they're doing it. I feel like so. I don't really like this deal.
That's fair. I think in the previous 2 years, he's kind of started to slow down a little bit. Last year, he was missed 7 games. He ended up playing 7 games in the playoffs though. But he only had 1 assist, and that was his only point total with 8 penalty minutes. Um, he's a great player nonetheless. In his last year in Vegas, I think he was really key to their cup run. Where in 22 games played, he put up 20 points with 10 and 10 for the goals and assists. So he has the potential to get close to that point per game mark, but I don't know if he'll be able to do it. So I think it's hard because I want to go no so good, but I also want to put him in decent. I think we'll put him in no so good. Um, but I think if he increases his point total from the previous year, I think we're going to look at this as being a decent contract.
Yes.
Finally, the last player that we have in this tier list. This has been a long one, to say the least, but it is Anthony Duclair. He signs a 3 year, $3.5 million contract with the New York Islanders. It goes to Mike Bartner's favorite team. In the last season, he started off with the San Jose Sharks. He put up 27 points through 56 games played with the San Jose Sharks, as I said, and then got shipped to the Tampa Bay Lightning, and things really switched for him there. He put up 15 points through 17 games played with 8 goals. So he really started to find his groove with the Tampa Bay Lightning there. Then come playoff time through 5 games played, he was only able to put up 2 assists. But I think that's all right. We kind of got a glimpse of what he could be on a very solid Tampa Bay Lightning team. So if he can pick that up with the New York Islanders, I think we could look at this as being a good contract. You get what you get with Anthony Duclair. He's kind of around that 30 to 40 point guy. I think when you give him a full season, when you give him an actual chance to play a very sizable role. But if you don't, I don't think you're gonna talk about Anthony Duclair a lot. He plays with that edge, which I think the Islanders could probably help and need, especially with Matthew Barzal. Could use some protection on him, and if Cole Eiserman comes over for the 25-26 season, I think you're getting a guy who can help kind of protect him out there and kind of give him a little bit of help, especially with Cole Eiserman not being the tallest guy in the world. Jack, where are you thinking for this Anthony Duclair deal?
I would say decent, but can definitely move up to good.
I agree. I think he's if he stays on that pace he was with the Tampa Bay Lightning, this is a good to steal, a good contract or a great deal slash steal. But right now, I think kind of looking at what we've given, if he can stay healthy, if he can play a full season, I think we're going to be looking at this one as being a good contract. So I'm going to put this in decent just based on face value and everything like that. He's kind of been off and on with his health and with how much he's played every year. So this I will put him in a decent contract. So that does it for the tier list. Um, I don't know if Nordic is making this as his own clip out. If he did, drop a like, drop a subscribe. I don't know. If he's not, um, then we got a little bit more stuff to talk about. So we will be right back with a few more news articles from what happened in the last week. But yeah, we will be right back. All right. So coming down to the last part of this episode, we're going to review some trades that me and Nordic were not able to review because it didn't happen when we recorded. So we're going to start it off with the furthest possible trade back. Andrew Mangiapane was dealt to the Washington Capitals in exchange for a 2025 second round pick going in return to the Calgary Flames. Jack, what are you thinking about this deal for the Calgary Flames? You know, Mangiapane, he's been a big part of their team for a while now. He kind of broke out. He's had some off years, but he's had some good years as well. What are you thinking about this?
Yeah, he definitely was a big piece, and I think this is a move for the Capitals that kind of keeps him in the race. Honestly, that's a top six guy who can put up a lot of points if he's healthy, and most of the time he is healthy. So, yeah, I do like this for both sides. I think Calgary is kind of going into a full on rebuild, which they've kind of been avoiding for a little bit now. But yeah, I think trading him for a draft pick is good for them and good for the Caps for staying in it while Ovechkin's still in the league. So
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So with that, the Calgary Flames have they're starting it's starting to look like their rebuild is starting to ramp up. They're really trying to get this going. So next season they have two conditional first round picks and two second round picks in the draft. Um, so it does look like they're trying to bolster up and try and create some depth, get some pieces in what looks to be a very deep 2025 draft. Um, and as far as for the Washington Capitals, they're adding a very solid player in Andrew Mangiapane, who last year kind of had a little bit of an off year, but I think you're getting him at a solid 45 to 50 point guy. He's making he making 2 and a bit million. Um, so it's not a bad deal for him. He had 14 goals last season as well. But I think that this did put Washington in a little bit of a pickle here because right now their projected cap space is 13 million over the cap. Um, I don't know how accurate that is, but they got a lot of big contracts on the books because they've already brought in Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'm pretty sure me and Nordic already touched on that as well. So if you want, you can listen to our previous episodes where we kind of dove into it a little bit more. But Mangiapane is a free agent at the end of this season, where right now he is actually making um, $5.8 million. So I was a little wrong on that one, but um, it's not bad for the Calgary Flames. I think the Calgary Flames probably ended up, in my opinion, winning that deal. But at the same time, you can't be too sure. It looks like Washington's trying to make one last run and give Ovechkin as much help um, to win, to not to win, to break Gretzky's record as possible. So they're trying to stay competitive. I respect it, but man, they got a lot of big contracts in the books. Um, well, I maybe we didn't. Did we dive into it? Sorry, I'm going through these trades, and there's one that I don't think we talked about, but it is here. So I would actually like to talk about it right now. Um, Jacob Chikrin was traded to the Washington Capitals as well. So that was another big deal. Um, I'm trying to pull up this trade here. Um, Sorry, I should have had this set and ready to go here. But the Jacob Chikrin trade. So he was traded from the Ottawa Senators, who they kind of traded for him to try and get him going. So what do you think about Jacob Chikrin? Kind of how do you think he fits with the Washington Capitals as I try and find this trade here?
yeah, I think it definitely fits their team. And yeah, I totally forgot about this too. Um, but yeah, it's just like the Capitals are trying to stay competitive, and I respect it. Um, but yeah, a couple years we're looking at a pretty rough stretch, I feel like. So, but yeah, we'll see what they can do.
All right, so I have the trade pulled up here. Jacob Chikrin, he's a free agent at the end of this year, which a lot of their guys are. He's making $4.6 million. The trade for Jacob Chikrin was so the Ottawa Senators traded Chikrin to the Washington Capitals in exchange for Nick Jensen and a 2026 third round pick. Now, we all kind of know what Jacob Chikrin is. Nick Jensen, on the other hand, let me pull up his point totals here because I don't know them off the top of my head. Nick Jensen, he's 33 years old. He had 14 points through 78 games played last year with the uh, Washington Capitals. That's the team. He's been a Capital for the last couple years, so I think he's an all right player. I think giving him up for Chikrin, I don't think you're mad about this. So I think that this was actually a great deal for the Washington Capitals. But at the same time, you also got to look at it as they are paying a lot of money here. They have so many contracts that are over 4.5 million. Like I'm looking at it, and they have about 10 contracts over 4 million. And that's not including any like Ovechkin who's making 9.5, Carlson who's making 8, Dubois who's making 8.5, Tom Wilson, who for some reason is making $6.5 million. I still don't understand why that's the case, but apparently it is. So that's done. We got that out of the way. Now, possibly one of the bigger trades to come through. Um, this one I feel like shocked a lot of people. Mikhail Sergachev was traded to the Utah Hockey Club in exchange for J.J. Moser, Connor Geeky, a 2025 second round pick, and a 2024 seventh round pick. Um, I can't remember who the GM or owner of Utah is, but he is wasting no time trying to make this team competitive. I think he's kind of looked at this team and been like, hey, this rebuild has gone on long enough. We need to start going into attack mode because he wants to bring some fans into Utah. I think that you need that. You need to have a good opening season. Otherwise, you're looking at it and you're like, damn, like, did I make a mistake bringing a team to Utah here? Because fans don't want to come out because we're bad, right? But I think he did it at the right time. I think a lot of their guys have developed. They're in their prime. They're getting close to their prime, if that. And you acquire a great defenseman in Mikhail Sergachev. So, Jack, what are you thinking about this trade here from kind of both sides here?
Yeah, for sure. I like the marketing standpoint out of any of it. Um, yeah, obviously you're giving up a couple young guys, but that's okay. Sergachev is a great player, and he'll definitely help the team out. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Utah can definitely make some noise the next couple of years. So we'll see what they can do with their young guys and veterans coming together. So looking like a fun team.
I agree. I think that Tampa Bay kind of had to do something like this. They have a lot of money on the books, um, and as we said, kind of with Jake Gensel earlier, um, they needed to make room if they wanted to get him, and they did. They made the room for him, and it had to be Sergachev. Sadly, I think that they wanted to keep him, but at the same time, you're also looking at it like, hey, this guy's coming off a pretty big injury. Like we might have to move on from him here. So Mikhail Sergachev gets dealt to Utah, um, and it looked like it was in order to make room for the guy that we're going to talk about right next, Jake Gensel. We kind of already dove into this earlier, so we won't go too deep into it, but pretty much he gets dealt to the Tampa Bay Lightning from the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for a 2025 third round pick. This was really probably just to talk to him before free agency opens so they could try and get a deal done as soon as possible. So they did. So they got the unrestricted free agent rights for Jake Gensel. That's pretty much all this was. So getting a third round pick, as much as it does suck to lose Jake Gensel, a third round pick to get a guy who didn't look like he was going to re-sign with you, um, not a bad consolation if for the Carolina Hurricanes there. Jack, I mean, there's not too much to really say on this, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or just
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not really much to say, but I mean, we kind of covered it all. So
all right? Sounds good. The last trade that we are going to talk about, because I think that this is all the trades that we have. Chris Tanev. We already talked about him earlier, how he signed in Toronto, but he was acquired to Toronto for the free agency rights. Um, he was acquired for a 2026 seventh round pick and Max Ellis, a right winger. So those get shipped back to Dallas in exchange for the unrestricted or in exchange for the free agent rights of Chris Tanev. So kind of the same thing as the Jake Gensel deal, where they're just trying to get the rights so they can talk to him early, kind of see what he's feeling, see what the market's kind of saying, and so they can try and get a deal done before he even hits the open market there. So he doesn't kind of go away because looked like they wanted him. They wanted to get a deal done, and They did it and they pulled the trigger. So looks like that's kind of a great deal. It worked out for Toronto. It kind of suck if you trade some things and you're just like, you know what, I'm not gonna sign with you guys. So I think it's kind of the same thing as that Gensel deal. There's not too much to really say on it, but yeah, I don't know. Jack, you got any thoughts on it, or kind of same thing as Gensel?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, we covered it in the free agent signing. So
Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like that is pretty much everything we have, but I am gonna ask Jack one question. So the baseball season, we're a little over halfway through. As the baseball guy on this pod, Jack, who who's your champion of the MLB this year? Who's winning the World Series, and who is going to be the runner-up?
oh man, you know what? Dark horse right now, I like the Padres a lot. Padres are they're a fun team. There's a lot of star power and their starting pitching is incredible. Cease, oh my gosh, I can't stand Cease. He's just nasty stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I could go on for hours about how I hate the Cubs right now. Obviously, I'm a diehard Cub fan, but I'm way too tired to talk about them right now because they piss me off so much.
Oh man.
Yeah, I also like the Orioles. I'd say right now my pick is going to be Padres Orioles World Series.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, the Padres have definitely been a team that, I don't think a lot of people really saw the Padres as being, a team that could make a run. There hasn't really been, I will say, it doesn't look like there's a team that's like completely run away with it at all.
Yeah,
I think every single team is close. Because like there's no team that's like got a 30 win to loss differential. Like the largest one I think is the Phillies and it's 27. Like it's still a big difference, but at the same time, like every team looks to be at almost 500. Like I'm looking at it, and almost every team looks to be 500, slightly above, slightly below. Like it's a tight race. This is gonna come down to the last little bit here, but I will say for my predictions, I'm sticking with the team that I picked to be the champions at the way too early predictions. I'm going Phillies, to win it all. I wish I could take back who I said was gonna be
safe
the
pick.
runner-up, the Texas Rangers. They've kind of been really underwhelming in my eyes. So I am going to take
Terrible.
the Baltimore Orioles to be the runners up. I think they have been probably one of the most fun teams to watch play baseball this year. I think Gunnar Henderson's unreal. Adley's just amazing. And I got some great pitchers too. So that's going to be my prediction. We'll get Nordics either next episode or if he wants
Yeah,
to.
Cubs are going to Baltimore this week. Can't
Ooh,
wait for that.
God, that
My
is
my cousin's going on Wednesday. Shout out Finn Doyle. He lives in Baltimore.
attaboy.
Took him to
Yeah, no,
Wrigley on Wednesday against the Phillies for the first time in a couple years for him.
nice. And was it that was
So
that was the game that you sent snaps of, right? That you were posting stuff of. Like, were you at that
yes,
game too?
five. Yeah,
Yeah. So you wish you could have went to the other one
yeah.
where it was
I'm for
a much more of a beating.
it. Was
So I know you're upset that you missed that one, but hey, whether you're there or not, a win's a win. So
we need more though.
that you definitely do. So that's gonna do it for us here of another Jack and Carter Nordcast. So if you guys for some reason stayed stuck around for the whole thing without Nordic, we appreciate it a lot. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Uh, anything else you got to say, Jack, or are you ready? You ready to go to bed?
I'm ready for bed, but thank you guys for listening.
All right, awesome. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a good night. Take care.